No more migrant kids on the Freeman Coliseum grounds. The last two teenage boys left early this morning. Now it's time to clean the place up as the feds shut the shelter down.
County leaders are calling their efforts to find better homes for these children a success. Eyewitness News reporter Matt Houston has a look at the numbers.
8 weeks after the first busloads of migrant boys arrived, the Freeman is empty tonight. Of the some 2,000 teens who stayed here, county leaders say 70% are now living with family members or well-vetted sponsors as they seek a legal and permanent home in the U.S.
I would say that we were successful because this was always intended to be a 2-month temporary contract.
The feds needed more time to find better homes for about 600 boys who slept at the Freeman. They've now been transferred across the country to other government facilities or child care centers.
So many of the kids, as well as volunteers and staff, were crying. So the fact that a lot of the boys were crying, teenage boys, that's testament to how they were treated at this facility.
Judge Nelson Wolf reiterated the state has yet to produce any evidence of sexual abuse inside the facility, allegations Governor Abbott called very credible. Wolf noted it will be difficult to continue any investigation now that the children are gone.
I think they felt like they'd reached a very safe haven when they were here.
Wolf and Clay Flores met this morning with volunteers and 2 remaining boys shortly before they left with family. Those volunteers will use the last 6 days of the federal contract to clean the facility.
Matt joins us live from the Freeman. Matt, are there any migrant children staying in San Antonio now?
Yes, Deborah, there are. In fact, the dorms at Joint Base San Antonio Lackland are nearly at capacity. 334 teenage boys are going to sleep there tonight. That facility will stay open throughout the summer. At the Freeman, I'm Matt Houston, KENS 5 Eyewitness News.